Bam. Live on the internet. All right. Well, unexpected 8 p.m. Ramble stream. We'll see who is able to join. I'm gradually figuring out how to use StreamYard. Bam. As you can see, I'm too cheap to pay for the logo not to be there. Plan for this evening is nothing. I am moving in the not too distant future, and I'm trying to prepare the house that I've acquired for my family, and it has really taken it out of me. So I don't have a video. I had some in queue, like prepared to move, and they rapidly depleted. So I'm committed to keeping on at least like a video a week. So I'm trying to do a live instead. I can certainly answer sword related questions. I have some cool sword related things, but I just have not gotten to doing the stuff about the video editing and making. My brain is also jelly, so there's that. I'm exhausted. I'm opening a can of stout on a nice hot summer day, and so soon I will also be mildly inebriated because I have not had a whole lot to eat. Well, I've had something to eat. My wife made me dinner, but low content. It sounds like I'm peeing. I'm not. I'm pouring alcohol into a glass with which to consume with my face. There we go. Okay. Wild. Hope swords don't get. Yes, I fortunately I'm not moving terribly far. If it were someplace much further away, then I might have to worry about it, but I'll be able to transport them safely and in small batches where I'm assured that they will not be damaged and clanked together. Do I have any swords from Japan? Well, yes, I have Nihonto. I have a few of those, and I have Iaito, which were made in Japan, but those are the ones that I have. I don't have any within reaching distance, so not. Well, I guess I do technically. I could reach them, but I don't want to get up. But yes, I've mentioned and done some things on Nihonto. I don't do very much of it though because I'm certainly a novice in the area, and there's a lot more for me to learn, and I don't. It'd be very easy for me to like proliferate misinformation, to say the wrong thing. But I do have a few. Every now and again, some enter my collection. I'm always on the lookout for thrifty Nihonto deals. But lately, I've been selling more than buying because of aforementioned house. But yeah, I do have a few. The Iaito that I use are also Japanese primarily. I think one Bertha. I have a big, very heavy Iaito that I use, and I bought it secondhand. And I believe it's Japanese made, though I guess I didn't buy it. I don't know for sure. And then the other two pieces that I use for an Iaito are both from Tazando, and they were made in Japan. Is Iaito a sword? I can click the button here to show. Thing is Iaito a sword or sword-like object in the sense that it cannot be used like a sword? Well, it's a fair question. I can leave it up. It's such a fair question. And Iaito is a sword-like object, but Iaito inherently means like practice sword or non-functional sword. So kind of baked into the term, like at least in Japanese, as I understand it, the Iaito are inherently not functional swords, but can be used for sword-like activities. So it's not a sword-like object in the sense of a maul katana, where it might have a rat tail tang or something like that, that if you used it for Iaito enough, it might rattle loose, break, or that it's made out of some sort of carbon steel. They're usually made from dull. They're made dull, so they don't. But I guess some Chinese forges make Iaito that are made out of steel and can be sharpened. But generally speaking, in Japan, the Iaito are zinc aluminum and don't hold an edge particularly well. So the difference, I suppose, would be that they're made to do sword-like activities in the sense that you can draw them and sheathe them like a sword, and they have similar proportions like a sword, but they don't cut like a sword would. They're pretty, and they don't require cleaning like a sword would be. So, in a sense, they are sword-like objects, but in a more applicable sense, they're practice swords, and they're functional for the specific type of practice that you are intended to do, which is drawing and sheathing, and that's what they allow you to practice. I don't know. SLO or sword-like object seems to have a connotation to me of mall ninja stuff and like cheaply made things that are not intended for anything but to sit on a wall. And Yaito is certainly meant to be used, and often can last you many years, and hundreds of hours of training or thousands of hours of training, but they're not actually meant to cut like a sword. So kind of in a sense, but not, it's like a really high-end SLO. Found a good guy in Ukraine who makes bokins. Just made a legit 55-inch Meow Dao bokin. I had Kingfisher burn on a Ukraine symbol, and in kanji, fight for freedom. That's pretty cool. Who's the guy that made your big bokin in Ukraine? I had Enzo Workshop. They made me a sword stand that was pretty cool. I hope they're doing well. I haven't heard from them in a minute. I hope they're doing okay. Kingfisher stuff, I can certainly say that I use them for Katori. I've had a bokin now since I made the video about it, and I use it pretty regularly for training, and it's holding up pretty good. Kingfisher makes good stuff. Good day to you, Matthew. I came across a YouTube channel called Mini Katana selling cosplay swords as battle ready. Most of them are 1045, marketed to those anime fans that have no knowledge of steel. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say that they have no knowledge of steel, but if you're doing cosplay or you find something, I mean, I guess I would say, like, I would totally buy a 1045 sword if it were theatrically something I was after. I've been tempted many times to buy the Inigo Montoya rapier that Windlass made, but a lot of people put them up on eBay for exorbitant amounts of money. And so I can't find a replica, but I wouldn't mind having a sword-like object because I really love that movie, and and I would not mind having the sword from it, even if it were not necessarily the best sword, because it would be cool wall art to me. But yeah, I don't know. If it's cool to you, I guess if you're selling it as like super awesome, amazing handmade swords cut through tanks, then bad. What's the difference between razor sharp sword versus Niku? Well, generally speaking, not to say that either one can't be razor sharp, but I would think about, if I saw that as an option on a sword side, I would think about it as something with a flat plane. So if you, where's my camera? So here, this could be your edge angle. Yeah. And this is meant to be completely flat. You can have hollow ground edges, which kind of look like this, where they're caved in a little bit. And then Niku is apple seeded. You'll hear that, but basically behind the edge, there's a little bit of meat. And that means that if you're doing tamashigiri, they tend not to be as amazing cutters, or at least they might give you a little bit more resistance, but at the same time, they don't tend to damage as easily and chip and roll and stuff like that, because they have a little bit more of a reinforced edge. Not a lot of companies tend to do it particularly well, but yeah, it's supposed to be something of an apple-seeded kind of edge versus a completely flat plane. Yeah, to have the ability to control the weight. Well, I have light ones and heavy ones. I mean, I think you can order them in various types, depending on what you like. Though most of the time I see them in the lightweight variety. I can't remember. I believe it was Sword Friend Sebastian that sold me a big heavy sword that I call Bertha because it's so heavy. But they are apparently made in heavier varieties. But yeah, I'll train with that, especially when I don't train very often, and I need I need a little bit of a workout. So wondering how much Tsukumaki can last on how long? It's a good question. Generally speaking, they tend to last a few years before they have issues. If you're training regularly, sometimes they can last 10 years or more. I think the Tazando Iaito that I have is one that I practiced with a lot. And eventually the Kashra started coming loose, and I put a dab of Gorilla Glue on it, and it's still on there, holding fast. And it's 15 years old, I think. It's seen a lot of use over at least the last decade. I bought it secondhand, and I don't think the person that used it before me did very much with it, but I've certainly used it quite a bit over the last 10 years. And it's worn and, has far from perfect, but the Ito is still holding up and still tight and doesn't give me the sense that it's going to come undone. But the Kashra did start to come off, and I glued that son bitch back down. Any thoughts on Chris Cutlery or BCI Katana? Chris Cutlery used to make different, they made a 5160 sword. I don't think they do it anymore, but I believe it was from a forge out of the Philippines, and it's entirely likely that it's the one BCI uses, because they always look like the traditional Filipino weapons katana, and I happen to like them. The scabbards are a little chunky, and they're a little more round than ovoid. But I like the way they feel. The blades hold up well. They're proportionally very, very nice. They're not big, beefy cutters, but they tend to hold up well. I haven't had a BCI katana, but I've had the Chris Cutlery KC 29 and 26-inch versions that were made in the Philippines before they switched over to the Chinese factory. And I like them. Many moons ago, I had one that was customized by Cottontail Customs, and it had a kind of a longer ska on it, but it was a KC 29-2, version 2, and had a custom leather wrap on it. And I sold it, and that's one of the few swords that I kind of, looking back, really regret selling, because it was a very, very nice sword. Obviously, I've done okay. I've got some other swords to play with, but that was a really fun feeling sword. I didn't like, by contrast, them without like the custom fitting work, but the work that Josh did on that one really brought out, I thought, some of the best characteristics of the sword. And I really liked the way it felt. I've subsequently had many Chris Cutlery swords, and I've had some of them from TFW, and I like them, but they're not, they didn't have the same zazz as the one that got customized. So I was pretty lucky on that one, and did not keep it. But I do like them. I wouldn't say that they present the best value anymore, though. The blade profiles were, as I recall, and maybe they've improved, but they were, they had rippling. They were far from perfect. And at a time where the competition was Hanwei and some cold steel stuff, and some of the other fledgling companies were on the market, but not as well known, or maybe a little bit riskier. It was a solid, seemingly well heat treated option, and they were lighter and weren't super chunky. So if that's something but now there's a lot of other options out there, and I don't think that the finish quality is the best. It would depend on the price you were getting them for, though. Worst katana sword you've ever had? The worst one. That's a tough one to answer, because it obviously is contact. The worst was I got it again used, I think, off Craigslist. I can't remember exactly where I got it, but it was aluminum and really poorly made, and all of the castings were terrible. And it was like, I don't know, it was just it looked like it was made to be an Iaito, but maybe it was a film sword or something, and it was just awful. And I think I had it in the corner somewhere over there, but everything about it was terrible. The weight was bad, and everything was wrong. So that was probably the worst in terms of quality that I've had, but I don't know who made it. Worst sword that was like a functional sword, it's kind of a mix. Like, technically it would be like the $50 Musashi sword. Yeah, that was bad, but it was also $50, so it was amazing. For the money, it's a fantastic option, but it's also like not a great sword. So it depends on what you mean. For like worst value, maybe. Um, that's tough. That's tough. If I let's see, worst value. Um, Worst value, but well, I'd probably think between and not to call out either manufacturer, right? But the one of the worst ones that I saw value wise was either from Angel Sword or Taisuki. I've since seen more Taisuki blades. I went to their factory in Thailand, or at least their office, and I got to see some more stuff. And I've seen more of their wares in hand now, so I don't holistically think they make bad things. But one of the examples that I saw was, like a $2,000 or $3,000 sword, and it had loose stuff, and some of the things didn't seem to line up particularly well. And in that category now, and even then, you could just do much better for your money. Um, mostly, there weren't a lot of people offering like San Mai in that, but there for $2,000 you could do better. Citadel at the time, because Motohara wasn't around, was one that sold in a similar price category, put less precious metals in there, but at the same time seemed to fit things together better at a similar price. MAS as well had some silver stuff, but tended to be at the time that those are around, uh, a little better put together. Angel Sword as well. They're in a little bit of a different category. I made a rant some years ago, and I don't know if it's changed since the owner has passed away. I think they're still going. I don't know if their warranty has changed, but at the time you could trade in anything for like its current retail value, which rose as as prices did, and they would sharpen things for free. So it wasn't all bad, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff was a little more rudimentary and crude, and you could certainly find something zazzier for $300 or $400, where you might pay $3,000 or $4,000 at Angel Sword. There's supposed to be some fancy. Anyway, I don't want to open the can of worms, but if I look at their simple Bright Knight swords, they were relatively crude looking, at least the examples that I've had over time, and they are whatever benefits they offer. I don't know that they overwhelm the price of 10 swords. So that would, if you talk value wise, which maybe that's what you meant, that's one way to go about it. And I don't mind. I called out a couple manufacturers though. I've since seen Taisuki blades that I really enjoyed, and I think they bring some cool flavor to the market. And I've enjoyed also the way they felt. And Angel Swords as well. I've had a number of them and enjoyed them. So I don't think they're all. I'm not saying avoid the manufacturers like the plague, but those are at least two that stand out as not particularly good values. I gave my Imperial Cheng Dao to a buddy who does crazy Chinese Kung Fu. His channel is, I'm going to mess up, Joplin Pak Mei Kung Fu. Well, I hope so too. Send me a link when he puts one up. What's the top 2 best sword movies in your opinion? Well, The Princess Bride twice. Just watch it once forwards and once backwards. Yeah, The Princess Bride, then The Princess Bride again. There's a lot of good sword movies. I don't know, the best are, at least the ones that I think of as influencing me, like The Princess Bride, Conan. Those are certainly fun sword movies. Revenge of the Ninja, I remember that one as well. But yeah, those are the ones that stand out. I'm trying to think of something that like the sword was a character in the movie. I'm hoping honestly. I've been reading a lot of books by Brandon Sanderson, and Brandon Sanderson has some cool sword stuff in his novels, and he has some things that are not like lightsabers, but cool like lightsabers, if you will, and just like some cool storytelling elements around swords. And he mentioned in some podcasty type thing that he does, or weekly update, that this year Hollywood has been at his door a little bit more, and so I'm very hopeful that the best sword movies are yet to come, because I have really enjoyed his style of storytelling, and swords have some prominent, like they're a character in the story. They're not just like a prop or a thing that gets, it's not just like they're an actual character in some cases. And so that is, I think those stand to potentially be some of the best sword movies. I'm hopeful. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm so overhyped on it because I've invested a lot of time reading those novels. So I'm really hoping that the movies that are made don't suck. I'm confident they won't. I'm really hoping. Again, I might actually go to the movie theater and watch them. I haven't been to the movie theater watching either of those. Anyway, until those come out, The Princess Bride twice. No, I suck at clicking. What has been your journey in learning Budo, for example, Toyama Ryu, and maybe other Ryu has, or Iaido, or even Kendo? Well, I did other sword-related martial arts for a minute. I've done Eskrima and that kind of thing, which is more Filipino martial art, sword-related stuff. But I study Katori Shinto Ryu, and that's not one that I show on camera because I'm not allowed to. But I did that first. I started that, I don't know how long, probably a decade or so. That doesn't mean I'm very good at it. And then Toyama, I got into after I was doing Katori. There was a local school here. I met one of the practitioners through a sword sale. He told me a little bit about it. I went to go check it out, and I've been going there ever since. I don't know how long I've been doing it, honestly, but again, no rank. I don't hold any rank with either one. Both of them have an element of Iaido in them, so you do some kata with either martial art. There's an Iaido component to them. Yeah, and so that's what I do. I don't do kendo, and I don't do fencing anymore. I used to do fencing many moons ago as a kid, and I did it a little bit through college, but I don't do any of that anymore. And I'd like to pick up HEMA. The same school that teaches Toyama is at the Minnesota Center for Blade Arts, I think is what it's called. And anyway, there's a HEMA school that operates out of there, but I've been so pressed for time that taking on another one that's like a monthly fee and I have to show up regularly to learn. But I would like to do that. Anyway, that's the sword styles that I study. Worst value, probably Cold Steel, I would say is a worse value. Not, at least if we're sticking to swords. The warrior katana in some cases have been heavy. The most recent example showed that there was some improvement. Dynasty Forge and Cold Steel, I think, used the same forge, but I like the fittings on the Dynasty Warrior or Dynasty Forge stuff a little bit more. They show a little bit more variety, have a little bit, some stuff, well, the price might be high, is a little bit more nimble in the hand than Cold Steel. And I don't hear as many complaints about them being broken or having fitting issues and the like. And so that's it. But I think that, they're from the same origin. I think they use the same forges and stuff. So they both represent a similar value, but I think that Cold Steel tends to sell for a little bit more money, and I don't know that it's necessarily worth it. Oh, that beer's kicking in. I want to say the worst sword I've seen you review was the Romance of Men, or this. Yeah, that didn't go particularly well. It did sword-like things for a minute, but the Ito on that one was loose. It had a lot more in common with the 1045 blade, in fairness. Yeah, but the blade actually, lived through the shenanigans. So, but that one was also like $150 or something. So yeah, that was on the list of swords that did not fare particularly well in the testing. 15 or 16 inches. Yeah, I think that was, I had a custom Howard Clark Bouguet sword, and it was nearly straight, and it was very big, and it had like a 16-inch handle on it. It was really quite long, which honestly I didn't like. Not my favorite. I prefer something quite a bit smaller myself, but there's this like 12 or 13-inch length where I tend to get it caught in my sleeve a lot more. And I noticed that the one longer than that didn't get caught on it. It was so big that it like didn't do much. And I could use it as like a guard on my elbow or kind of to guard my forearm. But I just don't study anything in particular that uses that well. And I can't say that I really enjoyed moving it around that much. I now have a lion dog somewhere around here that also has a really long handle on it. I was playing with it the other day and I was like, nope, I still don't like these. Sometimes your taste change over time, but I seem to have always preferred the little nubby ones. Was planning to buy those older models of Chris Cutlery Katana because they're one of the only few forges that has Koshisori as a default profile. And I'm at, yeah, and some of the older Last Legend pieces had Koshisori. They're pretty cool stuff. Oh my goodness, I have totally missed chat. I'm going to try and catch up. Have you ever done practice with Yaris? Maybe you mean Yari? So Jutsu. No, I have practiced with Yari, but I don't know any official like forms or anything for it. It comes later in Katori, and I haven't learned how to use the Yari exactly yet. I've done Naginata and Bow, and apparently there's some transference of skill there, but I haven't played with the Yari in any official capacity yet. What is the price point of Evolution Blade L6 Tensho? When I was looking at them, they were around $2,000. I don't know if there was a giant price hike recently or not, but a lot of the stuff that I've seen come up has been quite a bit more expensive. So they may have been hit by inflation. They're mostly made of petroleum. L6 is a petroleum product. So, it's twice as expensive. It's not, I have no idea, but some of them go for like $5,000 now. And I don't know if that's like the new price or if those have been special custom varieties. As you know, every sword handles very differently. Some swords are lighter, some are heavier, some have longer handles. What, in your mind, is the ideal sword in terms of handling? Depends on the scenario, right? Now, bear in mind that I do a few different things with swords. So if you're asking me, a samurai about town kind of scenario, I'd want something agile, fast, draws really well, something that I can move very, very quickly. That would kind of be the preference, is liveliness in the hand. If I'm doing competition at the level I would compete at, not that I do, but I don't have to do anything flourishy or crazy or particularly great moving. I need to cut a stationary mat really, really precisely. And so I would favor a wider, heavier blade because it'll do more work. And if I can be accurate with it, then my cuts, it's just a better tool for doing that kind of thing. So it would depend on what's going on. If I were going to war and I was fighting people in I was doing armored combat of sorts, then I'd want something robust. I would want a sharp edge, but I wouldn't necessarily care about the finest, paper shaving sharp kind of, not something that can shave the ink off of paper sharp. I wouldn't care necessarily about that. Something a little thicker in terms of width, and then something with a reinforced edge, kind of a lot of Niku on it, and something that I could, basically whack away pole arms with and chop into Yari poles and whatnot with, and not have it break. So it would depend on the context. That's why I have so many. I made a video on it. It's the Anthony DiCristofano sword. There's a video on my channel about it, and it is there. I don't want to pull it out right now because I'm lazy. But yes, I have a video on it. It's the Anthony DiCristofano katana. That I think is the most expensive one I have. I mean, it's a fair question. More than I'd like to add up for. Well, basically, I'm shy about answering this question because I have a lot of swords. They're worth more than I'm comfortable with owning, frankly. But I post under my real name on the internet, and I don't want to disclose some large sum of money that might entice somebody to make a bad decision. People are always like, "Oh, you got so many swords, it must be really dangerous." Well, I mean, the people have broken into Arms and Armor and stolen swords before, and so I don't want to encourage it. Also, it would be if they didn't get stolen and I was able to dissuade the would be burglar, then it would be years of legal trouble for me as well. So I'd rather not say that, but more than I'm comfortable with. I would like to sell a lot of them and pay off my house that I have recently purchased. Well, the next series will begin. Sword Friend Chris at Sterling Armory is now the caretaker of the Shards of Anathar. More to come, hopefully. Sanderson books are so long. I read most nights before bed. Oddly, I was not a very voracious reader. I read textbooks and I've read books, but I've struggled with reading for a very long time. It's a challenging thing for me. And I was looking for something to kind of help me be better at it, in fairness. I never really read for pleasure. At least on very, very rare occasions did I read for pleasure. Usually, but believe it or not, there was a time where I was living in places that did not have internet and I have to read a book to entertain myself. So there were times that I read for pleasure, but they were infrequent. And Shadiversity had talked about Brandon Sanderson, some cool stuff about swords. I thought I would give it a try, and I've kind of been hooked since. But yes, I enjoy them. They are long, but I'm kind of running out of them. Honestly, I think I've gotten through most of his catalog now. It's taken me a minute, but worth a read. The Emperor's Soul short story. I have not read that, so I retract that. I guess there's more for me to read. I mean, yes, I am not a well-versed reader, though, so I don't have a whole lot of other recommendations. A few years ago, I started reading Brandon Sanderson novels, and now I'm almost done with them. I guess The Emperor's Soul. There's a few others that are coming. He fortunately writes a lot and very fast, but I don't have a whole lot of other people to critique. I tried for a minute reading The Wheel of Time, and it didn't fall off the page as well for me the way that I'm reading. I'll probably try again, but I've mostly been reading him for like 4 or 5 years straight. So at this point, yes, he's my favorite fantasy author, but I don't know if I could tell you other fantasy books that I've read. Not in the same way. I'll need some recommendations though soon. How do you do, Joe? Remember, it's S7. Isn't some guy posting how-to videos from Katori Shinto Ryu? So I don't remember. Paul Frank Sensei. He's got a YouTube channel and he posts some stuff about Katori Shinto Ryu, but he's a Kyoshi and he can do that if he wants. But I am not, so I don't get to post things on the internet or teach. All of that is pretty against the code and get me in some trouble. So I don't get to. But if you are a teacher and have the okay to do it, it's not that nobody can. Obviously, there's videos of people practicing Katori, or it's been done in demos and things like that. But I don't have the authority to do it or to teach it. I can tell people that I do it. I can practice in class and things like that, but I can't like teach it or advertise it or share it or that kind of thing. That I don't know that anyone would necessarily care if I like did kata, but they might, and I'd rather not rock the boat. That's, in fairness, one of the reasons that I picked up Toyama, honestly, was Katori was the thing that I was doing, and I talked about swords on the internet, but I couldn't like move the way I was learning. So I was like, well, I better pick up something that's a little more friendly to YouTube. And Toyama is pretty social, so they don't mind if I talk about it on the internet or share it or bring a camera to class. They seem pretty chill with the stuff. I took a Katori Shinto class yesterday. It was intense. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I really love Katori. I really enjoy it. took a few years for things to like settle in and be helpful. I don't know that they really have yet, but I really enjoy Katori. If I had to pick one, I would choose the Katori. I like that. I like that more. Toyama is more suited to like helping me produce video content, not just because I can do it, but I like cutting stationary targets and things like that. They practice that. Katori and like paired stuff. I don't know. I enjoy it a little bit more, but either one is good. I find them to actually be very complementary arts with one another. Katori does a lot of like 2-person drills. You're doing the same kata over and over and over again. It's hard to explain why you learn swordsmanship that way, but there's some understanding that comes over time. You do Iaido. I don't know. There's some components to Katori that are really, really helpful from a swordsmanship perspective. But you don't ever, well, at least not in the groups that I've been in, you don't cut things very often, if at all. And Toyama, they do that all the time. So I think each one kind of fills in a gap that the other one might have. And I also get the benefit of 2 very, very different teaching styles. So it helps things sink in. Once your kids are in high school. I don't know what that's in reference to, because I'm so far back in chat, but one of them's not far away. Why haven't you kept a Howard Clark or Rick Barrett sword? That's a fair question. The main thing is they tend to get so expensive that I can't justify really using them or playing with them. So I have them, I enjoy them, I look at them, and then somebody eventually makes me an offer that I can't really refuse. So I know I have a lot of swords, and it seems like the collection is enormous, and I must be some bajillionaire, but I'm not. I am way overextended into the collection of swords that I have. And I also enjoy doing projects and seeing what else is out there. And I don't have the funds if I don't sell them. So I enjoy the search and playing with and experiencing new things. That is also very fun. Finishing a project, having it, sometimes they're perfect, but then an offer comes by and I can't justify keeping it. Though honestly, there's only been a few swords that I've really, really enjoyed. Black Beauty was one of them. I really liked that sword, and that was really cool and special. But I sold it, and it's okay. I got another sword, another Howard Clark sword, another project to do. So we'll see how that one comes out. But the other one, like I remember, I had a Rick Barrett sword that I really liked. It came out wonderfully, and was also just a beautiful, wonderful sword. But so much hassle was in getting it finished that I couldn't stand to look at the thing. So sometimes I sell them because the projects have some, I don't know, they're hopefully going to find a good home and good vibe somewhere else. But I look at them and see the frustration that happened along the way in the project, and it takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails, so to speak. So there's that. And a lot of other times I'll buy swords, a number of swords that I bought, I know that I don't want to keep. I get a good deal on a blade. I can finish it. I can share it. I can engage with craftsmen and make cool stuff and put things together and birth a finished sword into the world. And that is really, really fun and rewarding and cool. Even better when I don't lose my shirt on it, which sometimes happens. I'm sorry if I'm missing questions here. I'm moving down. I'm trying to catch up with chat. I'm still probably far away, and I'm sorry in advance for that. But if I missed your question, throw it in there again. I'm trying. Have any of you heard of Zisei katanas? I just got mine. Seems very nice. Highly recommend. Sweet. Make a video. Supposedly they will send me a review sample, and I will get to check it out and talk about it and stuff, but it has not happened just yet. Carl Ruger made a video about it not too long ago. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, Carl. Carl walked me through how to say his name the other day, and now I'm probably saying it wrong again. But there's a video out there of somebody that purchased one and showed some pretty good details around it. I'd recommend him. I think he might have been in chat. But anyway, Carl Ruger, he's got a channel and he reviewed one of the swords. If you've got one, make a sword video. Show us. It's not that it won't, it's just that I have. It's the Anthony DiCristofano sword. There's a video about it. I won't break it down because I'm sitting down and I'm lazy and I'm wiped out and I don't want to clean it and do all that stuff. But there's a video about it already that shows you in better detail than I would be able to accomplish right now. Any Vietnamese or Thai-made katana? I don't have any Taisuki remaining. I have a Da, but I don't know if it was made in Thailand or not. And I don't think I have anything Vietnamese made. Probably not. Supposedly as well, Taisuki might send me a review sample. I did ping Jack not too long ago and asked, and he said he would make one, but time, production, sometimes those fall through the cracks. Yes, Sanderson's Kickstarter was mind-blowing. I remember jumping on and I was like, it was already overfunded by the time I think I jumped in when they had like, we're already $2 million funded or something. But I'm so happy that that's the case, because then like maybe they can get really talented people to like make that content. I think the Stormlight Archive series would be like a really fun game. I think you could do some pretty cool different stuff in games to do it. It'd be, I don't know, I'd love to see some of his stories brought to other media. He's still around and has a good idea of how to tell stories and how world building, how things should be. And I think he like plays games and whatnot a bit too. So I'm very hopeful that some of those stories will be in other kick-ass mediums. I would love to just veg out and watch 10 hours of one of those stories. Yeah, that is a thing I would like to happen. So his Kickstarter is mind-blowing, but I hope that like jostled somebody to pay attention. I was screaming at Netflix the other day. I scream into the void a lot of times, go figure. But I was like, why is there so much garbage here? Why don't you just take that money and give it to Brandon Sanderson and buy his catalog and then make stuff? Like every now and again, they make good stuff, but like just take all your money and just make those things. Hopefully that happens, or someone better. I can't say I really enjoyed the Wheel of Time. I didn't enjoy. I didn't have as much invested in the books either, but I didn't enjoy. Well, I watched it all, so I guess it was unwatchable. But I hope that Brandon Sanderson's when they make his stuff, that they do a better job, where it's different than the Wheel of Time is. I really enjoyed Game of Thrones, as did a number of people. Brandon Sanderson is a little bit more PG-13, but I think some of the film quality would be great if it was at that level. Keep up the good work. Thank you. It doesn't feel like good work all the time, but kind words go a long way. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your content and study Japanese, Italian, and German swordsmanship. Understanding wife of 20 plus. Yeah, that's where I'm in. My wife tolerates my doofy hobbies. That is on the list. I remember playing Discworld on the PlayStation. There was a game called Discworld, and my disc got scratched towards the end of the game, and I never finished it, but I remember playing that game. That's the only exposure to Discworld that I've had, but I remember being very funny. Joe, things are slow. I wonder if I have any photos. maybe I can. Probably not. But anyway, the house is nice. People like it. There was a bunch of drama getting into it. Could have been worse, but very strange experience getting the house. The first initial moments of going into it were very sour, unfortunately. And now I have to paint it and recarpet it. The people that lived there before never smoked in the house, but the ceilings were stained. They said they never smoked in the house, but the ceilings at least require more than 4 coats to cover up the tar stains. And there are the burns in the carpet are probably from something that is not a cigarette, I would assume. And the smell that I'm smelling and that my wife smells must be from a campfire candle or something like that, a cigarette smelling candle. Anyway, there's a lot to be done to freshen it up and make my wife and my daughter and my son comfortable there. And I, first day owning it, went in. Well, not the first day, unfortunately, that didn't work out. But the second day owning it, I stripped 3 rooms of wallpaper, and 2 of them went very, very poorly. They applied the wallpaper right on the drywall, and so that caused a lot of additional work that I've been trying to sort out right now. But I've got painters in there doing stuff because I can't get it all done or I'll die. But I'm trying to strip wallpaper off 3 rooms, and now I have to skim coat, sand, and prime 2 rooms, and I've got that accomplished in one of them. The wallpaper's off, all 3. One of them is skim coated and primed. The other one is partially coated. I didn't get to priming it. And I found out that there's a product called Guards is the product that somebody recommended, and everyone that said, oh, wallpaper came off shittily, you've got to use Guards. There's not really a substitute for it. And then every hardware store in my area was sold out. So very fortunately, my aunt, on like the other side of the city, went to a different place further away from her, found 2 gallons of it and brought it, and it worked wonderfully. So some positive stories with family help coming through already, but it's going. It's a lot of work, and I'm so tired. I'm so tired, Joe. And I've got a house, so boohoo me and my big house, right? But it's a lot. I don't expect any sympathy. I'm very blessed to have the problems that I do, but it's a very uncomfortable experience. I am in uncomfortable waters for me with a house and still being in my old house. There's a little bit of anxiety that comes with it, but I'm very lucky to be having the problems that I do. So please don't interpret this as whining. I'm very blessed to have my family, to be able in a position where I can afford a house, have a hobby that I like. I don't mean to boohoo, but it does feel like a little bit of weight on my shoulders right now. Or maybe that's just drywall dust in my lungs. I can't tell. How are you at the jumping EI and Tenshin Shoden Katori Shinto Ryu? It's not fun. I will say I am out of practice in EI right now because reasons. But point is that really hurt, and I found that the jumping EI in particular, just the seated kata in general, the arches of my feet hurt like hell for so long. I thought my knees would hurt, but it was like the arches of my feet sitting in that little, I don't know what the stance is actually called, but when you kneel down, that was the hardest thing to get over. Fortunately, that doesn't hurt anymore when I do it. But jumping, it certainly wears on you. If you keep up and do it every day, then it's not actually so bad. It helps. But I have not done it every day, so it's like, I don't know. What's the best way to describe it? Like opening a rusty gate. Every time I do it, my knees pop. It's like I've got pop rocks outside when I'm doing it. Hello, Eric. How far behind chat am I? Really far. Okay. You can scream into space, but no one will hear you, except for all the space people. You are awesome. I love you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I don't feel like I have much of a personality right now. I feel like I didn't make a video. I want to continue. Like if you, I'm trying to at least post once a week. And in the absence of like content that I have gone through and edited and consider good, I'll just put my dumb face on there. But it's nice to know that it's enjoyable and it's fun. I feel like I'm less personable right now than I normally would be. I'm just so tired. But I probably won't honestly stream for that much longer. I'm gonna maybe a little bit after 9 Central, which is pretty close to that now. But I'll try to get through everyone that's chatted so far. But thank you. Speaking of sword projects, you were talking about a project at like 9:40. I'm getting close to done with the sword cane project I've been working on using a Hanwei sharp rapier blade. That sounds pretty cool. Usually the blades on those are pretty kind of the weak link a little bit, but a rapier blade would be pretty sweet. I have a blade that I think would work well in a sword cane around here somewhere, but it needs some work. I was thinking about sending it to Chris at Sterling Armory. He's got an even hand at grinding. I thought maybe he could straighten it out for me, and then I could do something cool with it. Sword canes are neat. I need a blacksmith to strip out my 2 big Chinese long swords and replace the handguard and ring handles, and I'm hard pressed to find a blacksmith. I don't know anyone that might be able to do the work. I don't know that they'd want to. Everyone seems pretty busy at the moment too, which I guess is a good problem to have. With weird stuff, went to Spicy Mike, Mike Curley. He made some pretty cool fittings for me, and when I need some funky blacksmith stuff, he's usually game for some kind of weird challenge. I don't know if he has any experience doing that kind of work or not, but he swings a hammer pretty good, and he's made some cool fittings for me, and they were fairly priced. Stop by and buy a kitchen knife as well. Those are pretty good. Anyway, that might be one avenue for you. There's so many symbols here. I don't know what's going on. How do I interpret that? Fire smoking, smiley guy, fart. Is that a fart thing? The mushroom that looks like the fart cloud. There's some swords in there. But hello. Well, I went into a debate with with my cousin the other day. He really enjoyed it. He read the first book of Wheel of Time, which I haven't. And I know a little bit about it because it's a story that has. If you read Brandon Sanderson novels, there's a lot of people that have read Wheel of Time, and so there's opinions on that one, especially that came out when the show did. I tried to be. Well, it was just a fantasy show that came out. I was super eager and excited to watch it, but it just. I don't know, something about it didn't click. And then sometime later, after I was 4 or 5 episodes in, I heard some other people that were like, this is not, I don't like it. But my cousin did. He read the book and he enjoyed it and had fun with it and thought it was good. So I don't know if I don't know what the majority thought is on it, but something about it just seemed, I don't know, a little amateurish or something almost. Which is unfortunate. It kind of makes me not want to read the books, but like, I don't know. Hopefully Brandon will write 5 more novels quick so I can have something to read. I'm working on The Rhythmist right now. I think The Rhythmist. Thanks for answering. I completely get selling a project because of the trouble memories. Sometimes I sell things and I regret it later though too. There's been a few projects like that. Always on the hunt for the perfect one, but then I get it and sell it anyway. Have you done any katana reviews of Shinken swords? No. The name doesn't. I have not. It looks like I might in the future. They're planning to send some my way. But yes, in the future. Hopefully I will be able to. At the moment, I have not. For jumping, I feel skateboarding makes your feet a lot stronger. That is probably true. I feel like it would make my testicles a lot sore though too. The jumping kata, I had to. It took a while. It took a while to get used to it. I don't mind telling you what the next one is. I'm pretty close to done on the Swordfin Garland sent me a Ronin Katana Soshu Kite blade to destroy. I've done that, and I am etching the blades. I didn't see a whole lot of evidence that it was Soshu Kite, but it's not a hot take. I needed to etch it more to do that, and the more I etch it, the more comes out in the etch. I needed to break it a few more times to see different cross sections on the sword as well, and the geometry. At least what I could see, I pulled some of the stuff out of the etch after sitting in vinegar for like 2 weeks, and it's certainly more complex than my etch for a day was. So I need to look at it, take some macro photography, record stuff. That is what I am working on right now. I've also got the cold steel messer, the Kriegsmesser, that was sent to me by sword friend Ian. He sent the cold steel one, so I have that. I've done some cutting with it, playing with it, and I need to also now sharpen it. I need to fix some of the shipping damage that came with it, and kind of chronicle that experience. So that's another one that I am not too far away on. And then what else do I have? Anyway, those are two that are kind of in the works. And then I have a bunch of Bizer swords from Rava Katana, who is, I don't know, is it RVA? I'd say Rava, even though there's no RVA Katana. He's in here. He sent me 4 swords from Bizer, who may not be Bizer anymore. I've practiced with the Iaito. I haven't cut anything. Have I? Maybe I have. My brain's a little jelly right now, but I've practiced quite a bit with the Iaito, and I've got that filmed. I like to practice a little bit more though before I, since it's dedicated to doing that. There's also another sword that is similar to the Iaito, basically the Iaito is a steel one, and there's a sharper version there. And so having both of them, even though they're slightly different in terms of the fittings, I think the Suba is different. Having 2 very similar swords, one dull and one sharp, I'm kind of playing with the, what benefits that has. I think it's the first time I've had like a dull and sharp that are supposed to be very, very similar in shape and size. So that's been fun to kind of experiment with, but I haven't really done any cutting with them yet. But I've done some filming, so so there's that. That's what's coming up. The Ronin one is probably going to be the first one. I just have more to do on it, and I pulled stuff out of the etch, and washed it off, and then didn't look at it and set it on a paper towel. So I'm not sure what the results are. Honestly, I can't see close enough, so I gotta do more. But that's probably going to be the next video. I just need to film the end. Kind of the crescendo is, are they Soshu Kite or not? And that is hopefully what I am able to answer in the video. Well, are they Soshu Kite blades? And if so, what benefit, if any, does that have? Why are 40 people watching and only 11 people thumbs up? Yes. Thumbs up, everyone. Give me the likes and the subscribes. Or don't. Either way. The YouTube stuff apparently has not been being particularly nice to people lately. I saw Shad and a number of other people that talk about swords on the internet have said that views and stuff are not going particularly well. I know I'm not poo-pooing. There's like 25,000 subscribers or something like that I have. And that is an awesome number for me. I never thought it would get that high. But at the same time, in comparison to some of these guys that have 300,000 or over 1 million or something like that, 25,000 is a much smaller number than that. And they've said that YouTube is not being very kind to them lately. And so the thumbs up and the all of those kind of things can help. And but I feel like everyone knows that if you want to help the creator for some reason, hit the little, I don't know, it feels like the poke button on Facebook from back in the day. But anyway, it helps. It helps. If you think the content blabbing on the internet like this is good, throw me a thumbs uppy. You should read some Stephen Burst. Has some good sword fighting, which is JSA versus HEMA. Is it like a fantasy novel? I'm not sure. Vlad Taltos series. I'll take a look. I heard Joe Abercrombie, I think was somebody recommended that. I'm not sure which series or not, but there was that, and then maybe I'd give it a shot to the Wheel of Time again, see if I could make it through the book. Try a balance board. I don't have, if you're talking about doing the knee stuff, squats and stuff help me out. It's just a matter of actually doing it. If I keep up with it, then I feel like I'm reasonably agile. What happens is just, I sit down, start working, and then the day's done. And I'm like, oh, it's time for bed. Well, I better sneak in a shower because I smell like ass. And that's what tends to happen. I had, during the start of COVID, a pretty good regiment where I was doing EI every day, and then that just evaporated. But if I can get back on that train, then hopefully that will be the case. I have a good spot to do it in the new house. So that is at least, that's good. I got a spot with a pretty high ceiling where I can swing stuff around and jump, and it may even be heated in the winter. I do Boken Kata on a down tree in my forest for balance. Sounds slippery. I don't know. I there is some value though in doing it in weird stuff. I remember when I did the sword experience, doing it on like a parking lot on an incline, like just practicing. Pardon me. It was really, really useful. I did not expect to walk away with some like actual martial artsy kind of thoughts from the sword experience. That wasn't kind of the toolbox course that I thought I was getting, but it was just practicing in the rain or on grass or on an incline, or trying to do these same things on these movements that I had just learned in one area, and then trying to change the groundwork or try to change the footing was interesting. We've started doing Katori in a park, and depending on where the sun is, we try to shoot for the shade. You might be on a hill or something like that. So doing it on grass or grass that shifts into pavement has shifted the way I think about things quite a bit. I also have been wearing a hakama a lot, so it's very easy for me to trip on it. Somebody made fun of my winter hakama. I have a very short hakama, which allows me to do EI outside in the snow. And then I just didn't swap it because I couldn't find my longer hakama. But Sensei Seth was like, dude, like maybe we can pretty much see your knees, Matt. Could you stop wearing a short skirt hakama and put the appropriate length one on? So I did, and now I'm probably going to trip over the thing again. Where's Richmond, Virginia? Makes sense. Barefoot, lots of bug spray. Yeah, the mosquitoes get pretty nasty when I go outside to do it, but it's just laziness that prevents me, not the mosquitoes. Have you ever heated the vinegar? Also, lemon juice will make more details visible. I didn't heat the vinegar. Nope. I just put it in a pitcher and put a bunch of white vinegar from Costco and poured it in there. I think it's done the job though. It was in there for a couple weeks now, and initially it looked not like it was laminated at all. And now it very clearly does, but there's more to it, and I can't see very well. So I can't tell you if the details are really there or not. You'll have to tune in when I finish the video. Suspense. When you finish etching, just add some seasonings and you've got a great brine to make that. Ugh. It's so taking them out left like nasty metallic smelling stains on my fingers. I would not want to eat anything that was in that vinegar. That was pretty nasty stuff. And it also had like some, I don't know, it looked like what's the best? It looked like some sort of genital wart that had gangrene, like was floating on the top of the pitcher. So I took the katana chunks, put them in a beer pitcher, and filled it with vinegar, and that's what's been sitting in. And at the top, it had this little crusty, nasty turd-looking thing cap that had developed. Hopefully, I got a picture. Anyway, I probably grossed a bunch of you out. That was more colorful than it needed to be. There was a nasty brown cap. I don't know why I put with the pus and the schmutz and the ooze. Joe Abercrombie is dark. Dark is good. Just do some workouts for increasing your vertical sprint speed. Those foundational skills will carry over into sword fighting. I think just any kind of, hopefully drywall work is going to work my arms and legs. Is there any exercise applicable to house remodeling that then I could kill two birds? Favorite samurai movie? I don't know. That's a good one. I mean, I like The Last Samurai. That was good, but I like some of the Kurosawa movies are more. I like them more. I was a fan of Yojimbo for quite a bit. I don't know. That's a thinker. I can think of like ninja movies, but the samurai movies, I'm not. It'd probably be one of those. I thought the Last Samurai was beautifully shot. There's some pretty cool stuff in it, but I don't know. It'd probably have to be one of the Kurosawa ones. Probably Yojimbo. I don't know. That's a thinker. I don't have a great answer for you. I also like to practice forms which have spinning and jumping footwork, which really helps agility. There's not too much spinning in the Japanese style swordsmanship. There's a bit of it though with naginata. There's some spinny bits in there. Oh, have you ever considered going to Combat Con in Vegas? I'm packing up today for my trip, which will include some time there. I went last year and it was a lot of fun. I would love to go on more trips, but at the moment I am house broke, so not so much there. And prior to that, the Japanese style sword stuff that I do has seminars, and most of my discretionary travel tends to get eaten up by those. Behind that, I wanted to go to Taikai's, which have like some sword selling and like various sword shows in Chicago, San Francisco, or in Florida, or New York. But I'd like to go to them, but it's just a matter of it's gone a little further on the list. I did go to the Icebreaker tournament in my local area, and it was pretty cool to see some of the HEMA fun stuff going on there. But I would totally go. It's certainly not that I'm above it. It's just between budget and time, it's hard to make room for it. Ever think of going to Blade Show and filming a vlog or something similar? Yeah, I mean, also on the list, I'd actually Blade Show I'd probably put above another one. That's one of the sword shows I'd really, really like to go to. A lot of people that I know go to them, and people that I've never met in person but have done business with for years. It'd be really, really fun to go to Blade Show. But kind of same story. I usually just save some money to go to seminars. Madison, I've been kind of chagrined for not going to Florida to do seminars for Toyama Ryu. I'm pretty behind on all of the things, and I don't know that I'm going to be traveling much at all because of aforementioned house. Go on to something like Blade Show. It's just far. It's just far. Going to Atlanta. I can't remember when they do it, but it's always like some sort of work thing doesn't work out either. I think this year I was just sitting at home when Blind Show happened, actually. But anyway, yeah, I'm kind of surprised too. You'd think I'd find an excuse to go, but I have not yet. Have you ever put Ito onto knives just for fun? No. I do have a Book of Eli thing that I got, like the machete from the Book of Eli, and somebody glued on Tsunami Ito, and it does feel pretty good. So I could see why it would potentially be an attractive thing to put on, but I have not done it myself. I regret my joke about pickles. I'm sorry. That's my fault. All right, I'm going to wrap things up. The Last Samurai, good. Favorite Zatoichi movie? I have watched them. There's a few. I like the older ones. I don't know as much about Zatoichi though. It's not that I haven't enjoyed the movies, but I haven't gotten as invested in the character, I guess, despite the amount of Zatoichi swords that I've had. But I like the older ones a little bit more, and I don't know the difference in the actor, but I like the not the newest ones, with like the bad CGI in them. Not that they were bad, but just not my favorite. All right, I'm gonna take this one more, and then I'm gonna wrap up. Mr. J, what are your thoughts on what's that? CR12 MOV D2 for small and large blades. So supposedly Evolution blades make something out of D2. I haven't had one to test in hand, but I suppose the main thing that I hear from smart people about metallurgy is that it's a series of trade-offs, right? Swords that you see me test things on, the tests that I do, like the belligerent, stupid, whack it into iron rods in the backyard, try to bend it, intentionally trying to destroy things. The swords that last longer in those types of tests generally tend to be softer. They tend to be like, you'll notice that 1045 blades tend to last a lot longer than the 3V blade. And a soft blade will bend and deflect and maybe live another day, but it loses its edge. Is it the best thing? No, but does it remain a weapon despite really, really stupid circumstances? In some cases, often, yes. So D2, though, and some of the other blades, the trade that they're making can be into hardness. So you have some other characteristics that are good, but effectively the blade will retain an edge and still have some resilience along the way. But you might trade some of that flexibility. And I don't know if D2 is on the harder, more brittle side or not, but I think it is. I can't remember where it is on the chart. But anyway, in the event that you get a blade that is one of these kind of super steels, it's usually kind of trying to balance flexibility. And even if you don't cut things stupid, dumb targets that are really abusive, if you've seen some of the kind of really fast capture photos that I've done, or that anyone's done, or any slow-mo video, you see that a sword like really bends and flexes. Even on a good cut, they tend to have some vibration that can go through the sword. So flexibility and resilience is really, really important in a longer blade, more so than it tends to be in a shorter one. And the softer ones tend to take that. You lose edge retention, but you get a weapon that doesn't break in half as easy. D2 is I think one of the harder ones, I think. And so it's probably going to hold an edge really well, maybe resist corrosion. I'm not sure what's special about D2. But if you do dumb stuff with it, then I'd hasten to guess that it probably is not going to be your friend in the types of tests that I do, which reminds me, like the 3V blade that I tested. So it broke in half, and then I took the nubbin and I fixed it. Kind of, I made a little chopper thing. And I went through the other day and just cleared a downed tree. My neighbor, I was collecting some of the branches to use for future sword videos, but I cleared off a bunch of branches from that tree. with this chopper bit, and it's still hair shaving sharp. I sharpened the rest of the bit back up, and it's still shaving sharp after just going to town and really bashing into a tree hundreds of times. And so the video that I had didn't show it in a particularly kind light. It broke pretty easily on that croquet stake, and I didn't do the same repetitive hundreds of cuts into hardwood to showcase the edge retention, but it has it. And if you're doing that kind of thing that that the steel might actually encounter or is a little better suited to rather than a metal pole, then just because it's a little more brittle doesn't make it bad. It's just you may have to be a little more cautious about the things you smack it into. It's a very long-winded way of saying that. I said it was the last one, but I'll stop here. Check out the Scholar General's channel. Yes, do check him out. He makes some cool content and knows stuff and talks good with his pretty mouth. But he has some good historical stuff that I don't know, and makes some pretty interesting content and fills in a lot of gaps that I have, and I really enjoy his stuff. And you should check him out. He's posting in here earlier. And yes. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here, everyone. I've been at it for it's my old man bedtime. So thank you for the questions. Thank you for just the community aspect. It's cool that I can just pop on here and ramble away at the camera and answer questions, and it is even mildly entertaining to 32 people at 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Anyway, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. I will try. If I fail to make another good video this week, I will do another live or something like that, regardless of how tired I am. Just in time for the End Hunter. That's right. All right. Well, I am going to stop. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching.